Good morning, dear friend. Let's imagine a moment together. Perhaps it's early in the day, just after the sun has climbed above the trees. There's a soft warmth on your porch, and the breeze carries the scent of lavender and damp soil. You've settled into your favorite chair cup of tea in hand, surrounded by your containers, those lovely mismatched pots gathered over the years. Some chipped, some thrifted, each with a story and each holding a little life of its own. There's something beautiful about this kind of gardening, isn't there? No sprawling yard required. No shovels digging deep. Just a few containers and a bit of sunlight. It's not about striving anymore. It's about delighting in what grows slowly, quietly, and with very little demand. You don't need acres. You don't even need strong knees or a big budget. You need only your hands, a few good pots, and a bit of imagination. And maybe like me, you find that container gardening offers more than beauty. It offers relief. The kind of gentle joy that comes from doing just enough. Not too much, not too little. And here's the lovely secret: plants can be just like old friends. Some are loud and fussy, but others, the ones we'll talk about today, are quiet, loyal, and easy to live with. These are the perennials for us, the seasoned souls who've earned a bit of rest. They grow year after year, blooming without a fuss. They don't mind a bit of forgetfulness. They don't punish you for taking a day off. Today, I want to show you a collection of perennials that are perfect for containers plants that thrive whether you're gardening on a sunny patio, a shady balcony, or just a few steps outside your kitchen door. They are low-effort, high-reward beauties that will surprise you with their resilience, fragrance, and charm. So, let's enjoy this quiet time together. I'll pour the ideas like tea, and you can sip through each one, thinking of your own special nook where it might fit. Whether you're a first-time gardener or you've tended blooms for decades, I promise there's something in this list that will suit you, something that will say, you don't have to do it all. Let me grow for you. Let's begin, dear friend. Do you remember the kind of flower your grandmother might have had just below the kitchen window? Small, frilly, with a scent that made the air feel sweeter, that dear friend was likely a dianthus, though she may have called it pinks. Dianthus is one of those plants that feels like a memory. It's soft, but never dull. Graceful, yet surprisingly hardy. And when placed in a small container, a chipped teacup, an old enamel pot, or a shallow planter on your railing, it becomes the kind of beauty that doesn't demand attention, but simply offers it. What makes dianthus perfect for container gardening is its size and nature. These plants stay compact, meaning they won't outgrow your porch or patio. They're not wild or unruly. They're neat little bursts of charm. The blooms come in shades of soft pink, snowy white, and even bold reds, often with a lovely ruffled edge like embroidery. But it's the scent that makes dianthus so beloved. A sweet, spicy fragrance, not overwhelming but noticeable when you lean in close or sit nearby on a breezy day. You don't need to spray artificial scents around your porch when dianthus is blooming. Nature will do the perfuming for you. To care for dianthus in containers, all you need is full sun and well-drained soil. You don't want your pot sitting in puddles. This little plant prefers dry feet over soggy toes. If you tend to water a bit less in the heat, that's fine. Dianthus is drought-tolerant once established, making it very forgiving. And here's a small, simple habit that helps gently deadhead the spent flowers now and then. It takes just a moment, no kneeling, no digging, and encourages new blooms to keep coming from spring all the way into fall. That's quite a return on your time. Another hidden charm of dianthus is that in many warmer climates, it stays evergreen through winter. While other flowers fade, it continues to offer soft greenery in the cold months, a quiet presence to remind you that life is still holding on even when the color sleeps. I've seen dianthus planted on apartment balconies, beside front steps, and even lining windowsills in thrifted soup bowls. It doesn't mind where it grows as long as it gets the sun, and maybe that's what makes it so special. This is a plant that doesn't ask for a perfect setting. It simply blooms where it's placed, offering color, fragrance, and ease to any gardener, no matter their age or ability. If you're starting small or returning to gardening after some time away, dianthus is a gentle reintroduction. It won't scold you for missing a day. It won't overwhelm your space. It just sits quietly in its pot, blooming with grace, proof that beauty like wisdom doesn't need to shout to be heard. Still useful just like us. There's something about lavender that feels like an exhale. Just saying the name slows your thoughts. And planting it, Well, that's where the magic begins. Lavender isn't just beautiful, it's unbothered, easygoing, and quietly generous. For the gardener who wants beauty without the burden, this sun-loving perennial is a perfect match. Its fragrant purple spikes and silvery leaves bring elegance to even the simplest container, and once it settles in, it practically cares for itself. Lavender loves the sun. Place your pot where it can bask in at least 6 hours of light a day on a warm patio porch railing or sunny stoop. It also loves dry feet, so well-drained soil is a must. You can even skip the fancy soil mixes. A blend of potting mix with a scoop of sand or small gravel will do the trick. And unlike fussier plants, lavender dislikes overwatering. If you sometimes forget to water, you'll be rewarded, not punished. Try planting lavender in a clay or terracotta pot. These containers help wick away excess moisture, naturally protecting the roots from sogginess. And because lavender appreciates airflow, give it a little breathing room, no crowding, no tight corners. It likes space to stretch gently outward, waving in the breeze. But lavender isn't just for looking at. Bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds adore it. Even with just 1 or 2 pots on a small balcony, you might notice a bit of life flitting in, drawn by the sweet scent and soft color. It becomes a tiny pollinator stop, a reminder that nature notices even the smallest garden. And here's a simple pleasure you might enjoy: snip a few stems when they bloom and dry them upside down. You can tuck a bundle into your dresser, your pillowcase, or keep one near your bedside. That soft scent, natural, calming, and nostalgic, becomes part of your daily rhythm. Best of all, lavender doesn't judge. You don't need to be strong or fast or even terribly attentive. Just set it where the sun can kiss it and let it be. It will return the favor with grace, fragrance, and resilience. Like many of us, lavender doesn't demand the spotlight. It simply blooms steadfast and soft. Proof that sometimes the most powerful presence is the one that asks for the least. Sometimes it's not the flowers that steal the show, it's the leaves. And heuchera, or coral bells as it's affectionately known, is the perfect example of this quiet, lasting beauty. Heuchera is a dream for shady spaces. If your porch sits under a tree, or your balcony faces north and gets just a whisper of morning light, this plant won't mind at all. In fact, it thrives in part to full shade, offering a graceful burst of color where other plants may struggle. What makes heuchera special is its incredible variety of foliage. These aren't just green leaves. You'll find rich burgundies, frosty silvers, deep chocolates, peachy ambers, and even lime greens, each with veining and patterns that look like nature's brush strokes. It's like planting a living painting in a pot. And while it does bloom, sending up tiny, delicate flower spikes in the spring, it's really the leaves that do the work all year long. In many climates, heuchera is evergreen, staying colorful even in the winter months when other plants go dormant. That means your container stays alive with texture and richness, season after season. Caring for heuchera is refreshingly simple. Use a pot with well-drained soil and water it regularly, but not too much. As I like to say, keep the soil moist, not muddy. These plants don't like sitting in waterlogged pots, so make sure your container drains easily. A light mulch or top dressing can help keep moisture in during summer, but you won't need to fuss over it. Another joy of heuchera is how beautifully it pairs with others. Tuck it under a larger shade-loving plant like a hosta, or alongside ferns for contrast. Or let it stand alone in a decorative thrifted container for a simple but elegant display. It works well in pots placed on benches, shelves, or even old stools, bringing color to eye level where bending isn't needed. Heuchera isn't loud. It doesn't bloom in wild bursts or fill the air with scent. Instead, it settles and offers quiet color and stays true. And maybe that's exactly what some of us crave in this season of life, a plant that's steady, a bit surprising, and entirely untroubled by shade. Because even in the shadows, beauty can thrive. Some plants feel like a warm laugh on a breezy day, joyful, bright, and full of good cheer. That's the spirit Coreopsis and Gaillardia bring to any container garden. Together, they light up your pots with sunny color and very little effort, which makes them absolute treasures for the low-maintenance gardener. Let's start with Coreopsis, sometimes called tick seed. But don't let the odd nickname fool you. This is one of the most cheerful perennials you'll ever meet. It produces masses of bright yellow daisy-like flowers that flutter in the breeze. These blooms seem to float above the foliage, giving your container a light, airy feeling. Coreopsis is a champion of full sun, thriving in the kind of light that bakes your porch or patio in the afternoon. And while some flowers sulk in poor soil, Coreopsis keeps blooming. It tolerates drought and less than perfect conditions, and all it asks in return is a spot with sunlight and soil that drains well. Deadheading the spent flowers will encourage more blooms, but even if you don't, this plant still keeps going like an old friend who doesn't mind if you forget to call. Next, let's talk about Gaillardia, also known as blanket flower. It brings a fiery burst of reds, oranges, and golds to your pots, like a sunset blooming at your feet. The flowers have a rich painterly look with soft fringed edges and a center that bees and butterflies love. Just like Coreopsis, Gaillardia thrives in hot sun, doesn't ask for fancy soil, and handles dry spells like a champ. Together, these two are a match made in gardening heaven. You can plant them side by side in one pot for a blended look, or separate them into their own containers and place them where they'll catch the most light. They're especially striking in terracotta or thrifted ceramic pots, which echo their earthy, cheerful tones. And here's a tip: use lightweight containers with wheels for these full sun lovers. That way, if you need to shift them to chase the sun or move them out of harsh afternoon heat, you can do so with ease, no lifting, no backache, just a gentle nudge. With Coreopsis and Gaillardia, you don't just grow flowers. You grow happiness, the kind that shows up each day with color resilience and a light-hearted glow. For the lazy gardener who still loves a show, these are sunshine in a pot. There's something quietly regal about a hosta. It doesn't shout with bright blooms or spread wild tendrils across your porch. Instead, it simply sits lush, broad, and grounded like a deep breath in leafy form. If you've got a shady patio or a covered entryway that never quite gets full, sun hostas are your best friend. These perennials thrive in partial to full shade, making them ideal for the spots where other plants fade or pout. And they don't just survive there, they flourish, growing full-bodied leaves in colors from rich green to cool blue to creamy gold. Some even feature elegant variegation with stripes or edges that catch the light. In a container, one healthy hosta can fill a pot beautifully, creating an instant centerpiece. Its wide leaves give structure and texture, and its gentle presence brings a calmness to the garden. Add a little trailing ivy or coral bells around the edges, and suddenly you've created a miniature woodland retreat right on your porch. Hostas ask for very little in return. They like consistently moist soil, not too dry, not too wet, just right. A little compost when planting will go a long way, and a layer of mulch helps keep moisture in and roots cool. Their roots appreciate some depth and room to spread. So give them a decently sized pot. Not tiny, not too deep, just roomy enough to feel secure. One small challenge: slugs love hostas, especially when the leaves are fresh and tender. But in containers, they're much easier to manage. Keep the pot elevated off the ground or place a copper ring around the base, both simple tricks that discourage those nibbling intruders. In midsummer, hostas send up tall, delicate flower spikes, sometimes pale lavender or white, gently arching above the foliage. They add elegance without effort. Even better, hummingbirds occasionally pay a visit to those blooms, bringing movement to your shady sanctuary. And when winter comes, many hosta varieties go dormant, disappearing completely, only to return in spring fresh and full, as if no time has passed at all. It's a comforting rhythm like the seasons themselves. Hostas are a reminder that beauty doesn't always need color. Sometimes it comes in curved shadows and the soft rustle of leaves that hold their own kind of grace. A plant that stands tall without asking much. How comforting, how familiar. Some plants arrive quietly and stay for the long haul, never flashy, but always dependable. That's the charm of the hardy geranium, often called crane's bill. Not to be confused with the tender seasonal geraniums often found in garden centers, this perennial is built for endurance, beauty, and ease, especially in containers. Hardy geraniums form soft, low mounds of leafy foliage with charming 5-petal flowers that appear in gentle hues of pink, lavender, blue, and white. They're not bold like a sunflower nor frilly like a rose. Instead, they feel like something you'd see in a countryside painting, natural, easy, and full of grace. What makes them ideal for pots? For one, they're compact and tidy, never spilling over wildly or becoming unruly. That means they'll stay put where you plant them on your porch steps, nestled in a half barrel, or resting in a ceramic pot by your favorite chair. They look just as at home in a formal container as they do in an old enamel basin. Hardy geraniums thrive in full sun to part shade, giving you some flexibility based on where your containers live. They do best in well-drained, moderately fertile soil, and once they're settled, they don't demand much. Water when dry, trim lightly in midsummer, and they'll reward you with repeat blooming well into late summer. One of my favorite things about cranesbill is how well it pairs with other plants. You can layer it beneath taller bloomers like salvia or coneflower, or let it trail gently over the edge of a pot with creeping jenny or ivy. It brings a softness to container arrangements like lace edging on a pillow. Even when not in bloom, the foliage remains attractive, providing lush green interest throughout the seasons. Some varieties even have bronze or reddish leaves in cooler weather, adding subtle autumn color without needing a single flower. And here's a small joy: hardy geraniums are generally pest and disease resistant. No mildew, no aphids, no fretting. They just grow and grow and grow. For a gardener seeking reliable beauty without high maintenance demands, this is a plant that understands. It stays with you quietly, cheerful, asking for little, just like the best kind of company. In a world of show-offs, sometimes it's the quiet ones that bring the most peace. If there were an award for the most forgiving plants on earth, sedum and catmint would win it together, hands down. These two perennial companions are what I like to call plant and forget beauties. Perfect for anyone who's too busy, too tired, or just not in the mood for fuss. Let's start with sedum, often called stonecrop. True to its name, this plant grows where others wouldn't dare. It stores water right in its fleshy, succulent leaves, making it extremely drought tolerant. That means if you forget to water for a few days or even a week, sedum won't complain. It simply keeps growing. There are many types of sedum, but for containers I recommend varieties like sedum spurium or sedum autumn joy. They offer lovely green or burgundy foliage, and in late summer they bloom with clusters of tiny, star-shaped flowers that attract bees and butterflies. The texture alone is enough to make any container more interesting: plump leaves that feel almost like pebbles. Now pair that with catmint, and you've got a winning duo. Catmint, with its soft silvery green leaves and lavender blue flower spikes, blooms from spring well into fall with very little encouragement. It's deer-resistant, pest-resistant, and attracts a steady stream of pollinators. Bees absolutely adore it, and you might even see a hummingbird or two zipping around. Catmint also has a gentle fragrance, fresh and soothing without being overpowering. And unlike true mint, it won't take over your pot or garden. It stays tidy, draping just slightly over the edges of containers like a soft fringe. Both plants love full sun and well-drained soil. They're happiest in lightweight pots, terracotta or plastic with good drainage holes, and they're perfectly content in neglected corners where other plants might pout. Together, sedum and catmint form a container combination that's tough yet beautiful, structured yet relaxed. You don't need to fertilize them often or prune them weekly. A light trim here or there, a splash of water now and then, and they'll keep going strong. This is a container for those who want to enjoy, not labor. It offers beauty without burden and proves that low maintenance doesn't have to mean low reward. Some plants teach you how to grow. Others, like sedum and catmint, remind you it's okay to rest. There's something truly enchanting about salvia. Maybe it's the way its flower spikes stand tall, swaying gently like candle flames in the breeze. Or maybe it's how it buzzes with life: bees, butterflies, even hummingbirds can't seem to resist it. Whatever the reason, salvia is a must-have for any gardener who loves color, movement, and ease. Salvia thrives in full sun, making it ideal for containers on patios, balconies, or porch steps that soak up the daylight. It's not fussy about soil as long as it drains well. In fact, it prefers things on the drier side. This means you won't have to hover over it with a watering can every day. Salvia is tough, heat-tolerant, and perfectly happy with a little neglect. What you'll love most, though, is the color. Salvia comes in rich hues: deep purples, bright blues, fiery reds, and even soft pinks. The flowers grow on upright stems, giving your container a sense of height and structure. It pairs beautifully with trailing plants like creeping jenny or cascading lobelia, creating a layered look without any backstrain or garden digging. And let's not forget its role as a pollinator magnet. On any warm day, you'll likely see bees hovering, butterflies fluttering, and sometimes even a quick visit from a hummingbird. With just a few pots of salvia, your little space becomes a pollinator paradise full of life and gentle motion. Caring for salvia couldn't be simpler. Water when the soil feels dry, and after its first big flush of flowers, give it a light trim. This encourages reblooming and keeps the plant tidy. It doesn't require constant deadheading, and it's deer-resistant too. Another reason it's ideal for a low-effort, high-reward garden. Salvia works especially well in lightweight or thrifted tall containers. Its upright form adds elegance and draws the eye upward, making even a small patio feel more vertical and grand. And because it blooms for months from late spring into early fall, it offers a long season of joy. To me, salvia is like a symphony in a pot. Soft leaves below, tall spires above, and a constant hum of wings dancing between them. It's nature's music playing quietly while you sip your tea or watch the sun fade behind the fence. For gardeners who want something bold yet effortless, salvia strikes the perfect note. Not every plant needs to bloom to be beautiful. Some, like ferns, bring a quiet kind of grace, green soft and endlessly calming. If you've ever wished your shady garden corner felt more like a woodland retreat, ferns will take you there. Ferns have been around for millions of years. They've seen the world change and kept growing anyway. That resilience paired with their delicate appearance makes them a poetic choice for a container garden, especially for those of us who appreciate beauty that whispers, not shouts. In pots, ferns are wonderfully low maintenance. They love shade to dappled light places where sun is filtered soft or rare. Think of under a porch awning beside a brick wall or on a covered balcony. Their fronds arch gently outward, creating a cascading curtain of green that moves with the wind like it's breathing. There are many kinds of ferns suitable for containers. The Japanese painted fern brings silvery tones with hints of burgundy. The autumn fern starts coppery and matures to deep green. And maidenhair fern, with its fine lacy fronds, feels like a Victorian-era favorite brought to life. Choose based on your mood and your pot's personality. When it comes to care, ferns prefer rich, well-draining soil that stays consistently moist but never soggy. A pot with good drainage holes is key, and adding a bit of compost helps give them the nutrition they need. A top layer of bark or moss can help retain moisture and complete the peaceful forest-like look. Ferns rarely ask for pruning. Just remove any brown or tired fronds as needed, and they'll reward you by pushing out new growth from the center. They don't bloom, but they bring texture, depth, and tranquility to every arrangement. You can tuck them alongside hostas, coral bells, or shade-tolerant annuals, or let them stand solo in a wide, shallow basin for a truly zen moment. They're also pet-friendly, unlike many houseplants, and tend to be pest-free too. For someone wanting elegance without worry, that's a lovely bonus. And when you sit beside a potted fern in the morning, coffee in hand, you may notice how it softens the whole space. The air feels cooler. The world slows down. Ferns are for those who've learned to appreciate life's stillness, the peace in a shaded nook, the gift of quiet presence, the beauty of green that stays and stays. Some flowers feel like a celebration of nature's wild heart, resilient, vivid, and brimming with life. Coneflower, or echinacea, is one of those rare perennials that offers both rugged strength and bright, lasting beauty. It's the kind of plant that thrives in pots while making you feel like you're standing in a sun-drenched meadow. Coneflowers are known for their daisy-like blooms with raised centers and long, bold petals that come in shades of purple, pink, white, and even orange. In containers, they stand tall, sometimes over 2 feet high, adding height and energy to any garden corner, patio, or front step. Their blooms begin in early summer and often continue until the first frost, especially if you give them a light deadheading now and then. But perhaps what makes coneflowers so well loved is how tough they are. Once established, they can handle heat, humidity, and drought like champions. Their deep roots help them draw moisture from lower soil levels, which is especially helpful during hot summers when you're trying to cut back on watering. In a pot, use a large, deep container to give their roots room to grow. Add some compost to the mix, but avoid heavy soils that hold too much water. Coneflowers prefer well-drained soil and lots of sunlight at least 6 hours a day. A spot that gets warm afternoon light is perfect. And they don't just look good. Coneflowers are wildlife heroes. Bees, butterflies, and even small birds flock to them. When the flower heads dry out in the fall, goldfinches love to snack on the seeds, making your little patio or balcony feel like a secret bird-watching hideaway. They also make wonderful dried arrangements. After blooming, you can snip a few stems, tie them in bundles, and let them dry indoors. Their spiky centers and strong shapes give character to winter bouquets or rustic home decor. One more thing to love coneflowers are perennials that return stronger each year, even in pots. As long as you give them a little room and protect the roots from freezing in winter by moving the pot or insulating it, they'll come back with even more blooms. They're bold, beautiful, and surprisingly independent. Much like those of us who've learned to grow through seasons, through droughts and storms, coneflower reminds us that wildness and grace can live side by side. Gardening in containers should never feel like a chore. In fact, with a few small tweaks, your pots can all but take care of themselves, leaving you with more time to sit, sip, and simply enjoy. Let's start with the container itself. Choosing the right pot can make all the difference. Go for something with good drainage, whether it's a terracotta classic, a thrifted ceramic bowl, or even a repurposed old bucket. No drainage holes. Just drill a few or place a layer of gravel at the bottom to keep roots from sitting in water. Plants like us don't like soggy feet. Next, think about size. Bigger really can be better when it comes to pots. Larger containers hold more soil, which means more moisture retention, more nutrients, and less watering on your part. Plus, they provide room for perennials to stretch out their roots and stay healthy longer. Now let's talk about soil, not just dirt from the backyard, but a light, well-draining mix. A quality potting mix, maybe blended with compost or perlite, will help your perennials thrive. If you want to go even easier, try adding water-retaining crystals or a layer of mulch on top. Both help the soil stay moist longer and reduce the need for frequent watering. Speaking of watering, this is often where container gardening starts to feel like work. But there's a secret: self-watering pots. They're a wonderful invention, especially for the forgetful or the weary. They allow your plants to drink from a built-in reservoir as needed. No daily watering, no mess, just peace of mind. And don't overlook rolling plant caddies or pots with wheels. These little helpers allow you to shift your containers easily without lifting, perfect for chasing the sun, sheltering a delicate plant from wind, or just freshening up the porch layout. Once your pots are placed and planted, maintenance becomes a gentle rhythm. A weekly check to see who needs a drink, a quick trim here, a pinch there, and maybe once a season, a sprinkle of slow-release fertilizer to give everything a little boost. Gardening doesn't have to mean aching knees or bending over trays of fussy seedlings. With the right setup, your container garden can feel like a self-sustaining joy, ready to greet you each morning with color and calm. Sometimes the best kind of care is the kind that's gentle, consistent, and simple, just like the garden you're growing. In the quiet world of container gardening, how you combine plants can turn a simple pot into a living painting. It's not just about saving space, it's about creating little ecosystems of beauty where each plant complements the others in color, shape, and need. There's a lovely saying among gardeners: thriller, filler, and spiller. Think of this as a gentle guide to pairing your container plants thoughtfully. The thriller is your bold vertical star, something like salvia, lavender, or coneflower. The filler adds volume, perhaps hauschera, hardy geranium, or compact dianthus. And the spiller is the gentle cascade over the pot's edge, like trailing ivy, sweet potato vine, or creeping jenny. This simple trio creates balance and movement. The eye flows naturally from the top of the tallest bloom to the drape of soft foliage below. And if you choose plants with similar light and watering needs, they'll happily coexist without fuss. But pairing isn't only about height. Think about color and texture too. For example, rich burgundy hauschera beside the pale gold of a variegated hosta creates a beautiful contrast in the shade. Or pair the cool silver of lavender with the vivid orange of blanket flower for a sun-drenched container that pops from across the yard. Another thoughtful pairing idea: mix fragrance with function. A pot of lavender nestled next to a low-growing herb like thyme or oregano creates a container that's both beautiful and useful, ideal for clipping a sprig here and there for the kitchen or a drawer sachet. And don't overlook the importance of seasonal interest. Some perennials bloom early, others late. When you combine them just right, like a salvia that starts in spring with a coneflower that peaks in midsummer, you get a pot that changes with the seasons. Always growing, always surprising. Even in smaller containers, thoughtful combinations bring depth and life. A hosta paired with ferns feels like a walk through the woods. Coral bells and pansies feel like a cottage window box. The right blend tells a story without needing to say a word. Gardening in this way becomes less about planting and more about composing, as if your pots are quiet songs, and each leaf bloom and trailing vine is a note. So take your time, try different pairings. Let your containers reflect your personality, your pace, your peace. Because when plants are placed with intention, they don't just grow, they glow. Color does more than please the eye, it stirs the heart. In a small garden space, especially one built with containers, choosing your plant colors with intention can transform your porch, balcony, or patio into a deeply personal place. Whether you're drawn to soft pastels or bold, energetic hues, your choices can create the atmosphere your soul craves most. Let's begin with soft pinks and whites, the colors of quiet mornings and handwritten letters. Dianthus hardy geraniums and pale heucheras offer this calming palette. Place them in vintage teacups, worn clay pots, or pastel-painted planters for a nostalgic cottage feel. This theme whispers peace. It's perfect for a resting space, a corner where you sip your tea and let the world slow down. If you need a lift, consider yellows and oranges, colors of joy, warmth, and optimism. Coreopsis and Gaillardia bring these tones easily, lighting up any container like a captured sunrise. Pair them with terracotta pots or golden-glazed ceramics, and watch how they brighten not only your space but your mood. For a more reflective or grounding energy, purples and blues are ideal. Lavender, salvia, and certain shades of catmint carry this palette. These colors are associated with memory, meditation, and dignity. They work beautifully in containers placed near your reading chair or by a favorite bench, places where you pause, breathe, and think. Want to create a feeling of cool retreat? Go for greens, silvers, and deep foliage tones. Ferns, hostas, and silver-leaved heucheras help build a shady sanctuary. Add in soft moss or a stone bird figure, and you've got a calming corner that feels like a hidden forest, even on a small balcony. Or maybe you're longing for a bit of drama and elegance. In that case, deep burgundies, rich plums, and dark greens can create a moody, artistic space. Think deep coral bells with variegated ivy or black-eyed Susans paired with dark-leafed sedums. These combinations draw the eye and the heart inward. And don't forget your containers themselves. A painted pot in a soft blue or muted coral can help amplify your chosen palette. Even something as simple as a thrifted cup or an old drawer can take on new life when it holds a plant that matches your emotional tone. Color isn't just decoration, it's expression. It's the language your garden uses to speak on your behalf. So ask yourself, what do you want to feel when you step outside comfort, energy, reflection? Then let your containers answer that call. There's a certain magic in giving old things new life. A chipped bowl, a rusted kettle, even a forgotten drawer. These items long past their prime become something entirely new when they hold soil and sprout green. In container gardening, your pots can be more than practical. They can tell stories. Upcycling containers isn't just about saving money, though. That's a happy bonus. It's about adding personality and charm to your space. A garden doesn't need to look store-bought to be beautiful. In fact, the most delightful corners are often built from reclaimed and repurposed treasures. Take that old enamel teapot you don't use anymore. With a few small drainage holes added to the bottom, it becomes the perfect home for a trailing ivy or a mound of cheerful dianthus. Or that vintage wooden drawer from a dresser you couldn't part with that makes a lovely shallow planter for herbs or succulents. Add a coat of weatherproof paint or sealant, and you've created a one-of-a-kind piece. Even baskets woven or wire can be transformed. Line them with a bit of burlap, add soil, and nestle in your favorite shade-loving plants. Ferns look especially lovely, spilling out of an old picnic basket placed on a porch step. Colanders, muffin tins, bird cages, boots, toolboxes, there's hardly a limit to what you can plant in. Each item carries its own history, and when it holds life again, that history becomes visible in a new way. If you worry about the durability of certain items outdoors, keep them under cover on a covered porch, beneath a bench, or tucked into a sheltered patio nook. You can also place a plastic nursery pot inside the upcycled container, making watering and replacing plants easier while protecting the original item. What's lovely about using thrifted or found objects is that your garden becomes uniquely yours. No one else will have a mailbox full of lavender or a typewriter overflowing with sedum. These pieces create conversation and memory, even if it's just between you and the flowers. And for those of us who have accumulated a few decades of keepsakes, this is a gentle way to let them live on. That cracked soup bowl from your first kitchen, Grandpa's dented watering can, the old bird bath your children used to fill with marbles. They don't need to be thrown out. They just need new purpose. Because just like us, these objects may be weathered, but they still have so much to give. There's a quiet kind of joy that comes each spring, not with fanfare, not all at once, but in soft, familiar signs. A tiny green shoot pushing through the soil. The first hint of color in an old pot you almost forgot about. It's like receiving a handwritten letter from someone you thought had gone silent. That's the gift of perennials. They come back. Year after year, without needing to be replanted, they return to greet you. And in container gardens, this miracle feels even more personal. You remember where each plant lived last year, how it bloomed, what colors it wore. You remember the moments a cup of coffee beside the hosta, a bee visiting the lavender, the way the coneflower lasted into October. When the seasons shift and the cold settles in, it can feel like everything is winding down. The garden goes quiet. The pots look empty. But beneath the surface, your perennials are simply resting. Their roots stay tucked into the soil, gathering strength. They are not gone, they're preparing. Then spring returns sometimes when you least expect it. And so do your plants. That first bit of green is more than a leaf, it's hope. A reminder that even when everything looks still or lost, life continues. This rhythm is especially dear as we grow older. It reflects our own seasons, the blooming, the resting, the coming back. And it teaches us something important, that beauty isn't always constant, but it is faithful. You don't need to replant every season. You don't need to dig or rush or start from scratch. With perennials in your pots, you begin to trust the process, to let go of control, to welcome what returns. And each year your garden becomes a little richer. The roots grow deeper. The leaves spread wider. The memories layer in year after year until your containers become living albums of your time spent tending and watching and simply being. So when you see that pot start to green again, smile. That's more than a plant growing back. That's the quiet joy of resilience, of renewal, of a life yours and the plants that continues to bloom. One of the loveliest surprises of container gardening is discovering how much life even a small pot can invite. You don't need acres of land to welcome nature, and just a few thoughtful plants placed with care can turn your patio, porch, or balcony into a tiny wildlife sanctuary. Start with the pollinators. Bees, both native and honeybee varieties, are drawn to perennials like salvia, lavender, and coneflower. Their blooms are like neon signs to pollinators, offering nectar, color, and scent. A single container of lavender can hum with activity on a warm day, the air around it alive with motion and purpose. Butterflies follow shortly after. They love bright, flat-petaled blooms like Coreopsis, Gaillardia, and catmint. Place those containers near your seating area, and you'll be treated to the gentle flutter of wings with your morning coffee. You don't have to chase nature, it comes to you. And then there are the birds. Finches adore the dried seed heads of coneflowers and rudbeckia. So if you let a few blooms fade instead of trimming them, you're offering both beauty and food. In autumn, it's common to spot little birds perched atop your pots, pecking gently at the remains of summer flowers. Want to extend the invitation even further? Try adding a shallow water dish or tiny bird bath beside your containers. Even a thrifted saucer placed on an overturned pot will do. Birds will come for a drink. Bees will stop for a sip. Butterflies might pause to rest. You can also hang a simple suet feeder or hummingbird nectar station from a shepherd's hook nestled among your pots. Combined with the right plants, these gentle additions turn your small space into a thriving seasonal haven. And the joy isn't just visual, it's sound. The buzz of bees, the soft rustle of wings, the delicate splash of a bird bathing it becomes a soft music, a rhythm of life that lifts your spirit without demanding anything of you. You may find that your garden, though small, begins to feel connected to something much larger. Like you're not just growing plants, you're offering welcome. In a world that often feels rushed and distant, that's a powerful thing to create a little space of care and invitation. And all it takes is a pot of bloom and a bit of stillness to notice who shows up. As the seasons turn and the light begins to soften, your container garden gently starts to slow down. The bright blooms of summer fade, the bees and butterflies drift away. And you might wonder, what now? Is the garden done? Not at all, dear friend. Fall and winter are not the end of gardening. They're simply the quieter chapters. With a few simple steps, you can help your perennials rest peacefully and ensure they return strong and steady when spring calls again. Let's start with trimming. Once the flowers fade and leaves begin to yellow, most container perennials can be cut back. Don't worry, it doesn't harm them. In fact, trimming away the spent stems helps the plant focus on storing energy in its roots. For plants like salvia or catmint, a gentle snip just above the base is enough. For coneflowers and hostas, wait until the foliage dies back naturally before trimming. But not everything needs to be cleared. Consider leaving a few dried seed heads like those on coneflowers or black-eyed Susans. They feed birds through winter and give your garden a rustic, beautiful silhouette, especially under morning frost. Now let's talk about protecting your pots. In cold climates, the roots in containers are more vulnerable to freezing. To help, you can do one of three things. Move pots closer to the house where they'll get some shelter. Group them together and wrap the sides with burlap or blankets. Or place the whole container in a larger insulated pot or storage bin filled with mulch or leaves. This little bit of care can prevent cracking in ceramic pots and protect delicate root systems. Watering slows down too in winter. But don't forget it entirely. A dry winter can still harm dormant roots. Check your pots every few weeks and give them a light drink if the soil is bone dry and temperatures are above freezing. And here's a quiet project you might enjoy: top dressing your pots with compost in late fall. Just a thin layer. Over winter, it gently breaks down and enriches the soil, so when spring arrives, your plants have a head start. Lastly, take a moment to appreciate the stillness. Bare stems, quiet soil, a single evergreen frond poking through. This is rest, not loss. Your garden is doing what nature intended, pausing, breathing, gathering strength. And so can you. Let winter be a time of reflection, not sadness. The garden isn't gone. It's waiting. So here we are, dear friend, back where we started. A cup of something warm in hand, a breeze through the porch, and all around you, pots full of quiet magic, each one alive with memory, fragrance, and the promise of return. We've walked together through plants that thrive in sun and shade and in the space between. We've met soft-petaled dianthus, bold coneflowers, fragrant lavender, and elegant ferns. Not one of them asked much, just a bit of light, a place to grow, and a kind touch now and then. And maybe that's the secret to a truly joyful garden. It doesn't need to overwhelm you. It doesn't need to be big or perfect. It only needs to be yours. A garden like this, made of containers, thrifted pots, old keepsakes, and hardy perennials, is not just about plants. It's about creating a space that cares for you even as you care for it. A space that invites you to pause, to breathe, to notice how something green and blooming can soften the hardest day. These plants, they come back year after year, just like we do. They bloom again even after long winters. They stay faithful even if we're forgetful. And in that rhythm, there's something deeply comforting. It reminds us that we don't have to be young or fast or strong to create beauty. We don't have to spend a fortune to feel proud of the space we live in. We only need to begin with a pot, a little soil, and the belief that something small can still grow into something wonderful. So, which idea spoke to your heart? Was it the ferns in a shaded corner, the lavender reaching toward the light, the wild joy of Gaillardia? I hope something from this visit sparked a little smile in you. If it did, I invite you to subscribe for more gentle inspiration like this. We're here to remind you that your hands still create beauty that rest, and creativity can grow side by side, no matter your age or space. And if you have a tip, a photo, or a treasured old container you've turned into a garden gem, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. This community, like any good garden, blooms brighter when we grow it together. Until next time, may your mornings be peaceful, your flowers be forgiving, and your garden, however small, love you back. Happy gardening, dear friend.